Hello, starseeds. Welcome to the Mystery School of Life, your guide to all things conscious living. I'm Raven. This is Jennifer. This is our first episode. So, to start off, we're going to tell you a little bit why we wanted to do this. I'm going to let Jen take it off first.
Welcome, welcome. So, why the Mystery School of Life? Well, we had so many things we wanted to talk about, and we're like, well, it's all life, and especially talking about the metaphysical, the esoteric, all of these things that get wrapped into what have been referred to as the mysteries. So, we're going to talk about the ascension process, what that even means. You hear this word being thrown around: ascension, awakening, star seeds, divine, gods, goddesses. So we want to delve into all of these things as they relate to this turning of the ages and the process that we're all in as a human collective. That's it in a
Yeah,
nutshell.
that's it in a nutshell. Yeah, we're going to dive into all kinds of crazy subjects because there's a lot to talk about. So, anything in, the spiritual realm, from spirits to maybe even some conspiracy theories, health, what you could do about your health, women's health especially, because we're both feminists here. We love our women. We want them to be strong. So we're going to get into a wide range of topics here. That's kind of why we picked this name, because we were like, we don't want it to just be focused on one thing, because we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. So that's why we picked this name. And I do Akashic Records readings, I do Reiki, I do energy healing, anything in the quantum fields, quantum meditation, quantum healing. I have contact with universal beings. I pretty much call myself an everything. What would you say about yourself?
I'm still trying to find that label. My
Yeah.
son said, "Mom, people ask me what you do." I told him you're what did he say? A witch doctor hippie, which is a terrible, terrible definition, but so are all the other. I wisdom keeper, medicine woman. I'm a temple steward here at Wild Mountain Sanctuary, which is the land that I steward. It's not, yeah, what it's more like, what do? I do a lot of ceremonial work and rites of passage and all kinds of different healing arts, herbalism, hypnotherapy, women's cycle coaching, blood mysteries. Um, Also work with a lot with sexuality. So all again, it's broad, um, and I don't know one word that would describe it other than I am here to help people remember who they are and align and live from that core soul place.
I'm definitely here to get people to love themselves and know themselves. Once you love
Mhm.
yourself, then you have better control of your life, and you obviously don't let bad people into your life when you love yourself. But I'm also here to heal the earth and make the earth a better place. So we've got both of us have a wide range of gifts.
Yeah.
So everybody, I'm just going to throw it out there before it slips my mind again. Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. We're be doing all kinds of topics, very helpful to everybody. And if you ever want a one-on-one reading or healing, any of the modalities that we do, there'll be references for you guys to be able to contact us in the description for this video. So, today we're going to talk about ascension, and that covers a lot even in itself, that word ascension. You were talking about that a little bit earlier. Ascension's pretty broad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a massive amount of great things with ascension. There's also not bad things, but things that can make you feel sick, can make you feel like you're not thinking straight, can make you feel like you're going crazy. So, ascension is a big process, but it's really important because once you know yourself and you know what you could do for this earth to make it better, because we're all here to make it better, then you want to go on this journey and you want to ascend. But you need to be prepared for what that's going to do to you and your life as well. So I call them ascension symptoms. Jen calls them something else, but that's okay because every healer has their own like verbiage for saying things. What do you call them, Jen?
I think it's the same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ascension
But I think
symptoms.
there's so much when we're talking about those symptoms, like what is ascension, enlightenment, right? Like
Mhm.
the Buddhists and different spiritual lineages have different names, whether it's, in Christianity, they talk about being born again and, reaching enlightenment. So all these different stages, awakening, that's another term you hear thrown around,
That's a good one.
where we're coming back to realizing and remembering ourselves as soul spiritual beings, as these energetic, even multidimensional beings. And I know in um, some belief systems as well that might be just even a little blasphemous, but these are the types of things that we're talking about. And when you mention these symptoms, I mean, this process, it's a lifelong process. It can happen instantly, it can take years, but it's, when you're on this path, it's a lifelong process. But sometimes, and I think maybe especially initially, or when you're going through deeper levels of what can be called initiation, it can be really unnerving, like having your life flipped upside down, inside out. And I know a lot of people who, when they're going through this, one of the most common things I hear from people is, I feel like I'm losing my mind. I feel like I'm going crazy. I don't know who I am. And and so that can be terrifying. And literally you are losing your mind. You're getting out from being in a mind-based way of thinking, losing these former identities, egos, ways that you've identified with, to becoming someone ultimately who you've always been, in the truest version of yourself. But if you've been operating in certain identities your whole life, it can feel frightening and very, very unnerving. So, anxiety, depression, insomnia. Um, I mean, I've even experienced sometimes like heart palpitations, dizziness. But certainly that I feel like I'm losing my mind. Am I going crazy? I've, had a couple of friends I've called a couple of times, like, hey, tell me when I should like bring myself into the psych ward, and or am I really doing this spiritual work? And especially where too throughout history, people who have reached these states have so often been demonized and vilified. They literally have been put into psych wards, medicated, electric shock therapy. I mean, all
Which I
different
can't
ways.
believe they do that anymore.
And they do that still. Yeah,
That's
it's just
terrifying.
horrific.
Yeah.
Right. It's barbaric.
Yeah.
And yeah, and, in indigenous cultures, when people start going through this process and exhibiting these symptoms, like maybe your symptoms, we label them now. We call them ADD, ADHD, even somewhat of autism. We call it schizophrenia, bipolar, generalized anxiety disorder, depression. We label these things and we demonize them. We call them a disorder. Whereas in indigenous cultures, they would recognize these as, wow, these people are having difficulty interfacing with the spiritual realm.
Mhm.
They would take them, help them heal, help them learn how to interface. And then these people would become the shamans and the healers in their tribes and in their traditions. And and so that's what we hope to do here as well.
Yeah. And I know for myself, I've been psychically gifted my entire life. So I was dealing with spirits contacting me at a very, very, very young age. And of course, I didn't know what to do about that, and I was alone in it. So it was really terrifying. But
Hmm.
as I got older, if you try to ignore these kinds of things, that these gifts that you have, like you said, it will cause anxiety and depression and a whole list of other things because you have something inside of you and you're shutting it down.
Yeah.
So that can happen with anything, though. Like if somebody tries to shut down their sexuality, that will cause you anxiety and depression because you're shutting a part of yourself down. So I just went on this journey all by myself. And you kind of just know, like you have it in your, I call it your energy. Some people call it their soul, whatever. But
Hmm.
you have it in the knowledge in your energy of all of these things that you have gifts for. It's just like I just automatically knew I could read the Akashic records. I just automatically knew I could communicate with the universal beings. I just automatically knew everything that I could do. And new things come along all the time.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it never stops. You never stop growing, you never stop learning. Did it start really young for you too?
I think actually I shut it down at such a young age, but I've always been a mystic. So I've always been drawn to the mystical, the esoteric, the spiritual realms. And in those realms of, I ended up taking a path into charismatic Christianity for a while. And so, you have things like speaking in tongues, which, is also in other worlds, it's called light language. You have laying on of hands or, Reiki or just laying on of hands.
Yeah.
Prophecy, that's, words of knowledge. So these things are, very universal, but we have different names for them.
Hmm.
So within that paradigm, I felt, I guess, safe and operated in that. Now, when I, kind of left that religious world, it was a big undoing because you're really unraveling so many um, belief systems and teachings. And so, like, oh, you're going down this slippery slope. You're gonna go to hell. You're gonna, go to the dark side, or be influenced by the devil. All these, fear messages. So it's been a really big unraveling for me. And also then to get almost like to get back to that place, another one of the teachings, within this construct is that, you have to be good enough, pure enough, righteous enough, sinless enough, and only certain people have these gifts. And I've come to realize and believe that these are actually innate things. These are the ways that we interface
Hmm.
with the spiritual, with the unseen,
Yeah.
with the divine, and everyone
Everyone.
has these abilities, and they're coming online more.
Hmm.
I think one of my favorite things is everyone's so worried about all the technological things happening and AI, but I realized like, wow, with every technology that we come out with, it's like a synthetic version of our own innate abilities. We have cell phones that can call around the world on the other side of the world, or we have telepathy. We can do the same thing,
Yeah. I do it all the
right?
time.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So,
There's good and bad in everything, obviously. But going back to religion for a second, I've I've found, and I want everybody to just be comfortable believing what you believe, but I have found that religion is pretty much a prison from the actual truth. So the way that it's taught by humans to other humans, it makes you a prisoner in that system. But that's just what I've discovered along the way. Because it kind of
yeah.
makes you not want to venture out and like test the water of anything. And then you get that word sin thrown at you, which is
Mhm.
a very dangerous word. That's an awful word. Like, why would you ever say that to somebody? Like, yes, people make mistakes. You make mistakes and then you try to do better. And there's
Yeah,
obviously like just really evil, nasty people that do nasty things, and that's like a whole different
that's a whole
subject. But
different story.
yeah, but just,
Yeah,
a normal person, and you don't make people feel bad for just going through life and making mistakes and learning from them and figuring out who they are.
yeah.
Like that's what life is all about. So, yeah.
I think one of the things that I've explored around that thinking is I think in some ways that it is part of how we've tried to explain why things are the way we are and why we are the way that we are. When you think about, we came from originally this complete oneness, right? We
Yeah.
talk about the oneness before the anotherness. And, as God, consciousness, all these words that we want to use for that ultimate source.
Mhm.
We came from this oneness to splitting off, to being what seems like separate in a way, right? And now all of a sudden, in that anotherness and in that consciousness of ourselves, you know, these these dualities came into play of good and bad, light and dark, um, even separate and connected, and fear and love, and scarcity and enoughness. And so when we're living in this world and we experience pain, we experience fear, we experience being hurt and hurting others, then we're trying to explain, well, why is this? And in some ways, you look at children, and children, when they experience this, when they can't control the situation, when they don't know how to figure it out, they so often go to this place of thinking, well, it must mean that there's something wrong with me, it must mean that I'm bad, because otherwise why would this happen?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we have done as humanity. And so that's where that word, to me at least, that's kind of my where I've played around with it, where that word of sin comes in is that explanation. But I agree with you. I used to call it two truths and a lie. It's like a truth sandwich or a lie sandwich, where I remember the first time I ever read the Bible as a young person all the way through, and I was like, oh, here's this line that just my spirit. There's something in my spirit that feels true. I'm like, oh yeah, this is who we are. We're made in the image of God, and it is all love. And as the image of God, we have God in us. What's the verse? It says that there's a verse in the New Testament that says something like, Jesus is the exact representation of deity, and we are made complete. We are made whole in Him. My spirit, I read that, and my spirit's like, yeah, I am the exact representation of deity, and I am whole and complete. So there's this line of truth, and then there's this other line. I'm like, sounds like a bunch of man-made BS. But over time, when you're in that system, if you don't initially recognize that, or, like I did over time, it starts to get jumbled up, and you get this truth, you get these things that just are really oppressive, and another truth, and it's all sandwiched in there. You swallow it. And over time it just gets messed up, and you don't even, you stop realizing, wait, my spirit isn't singing anymore. And that's what happened with me. I remember I'd be going to church and I'd just start bawling. I'm like, why am I crying? I was in a great mood today. What is happening? And one day I'm sitting there and there's this little voice, dings. It's like, it's not your spirit or your spirit's grieving, but like the spirit is grieving. Like you're not finding God here. And I have several friends in that position right now where they're like, I get angry when I go to church. I'm crying when I go to church. I can't wait to run out of there. But, that's all they've known, and it's familiar. And
Yeah.
there is a level, I learned a lot of really good things in church, and I don't necessarily regret all of that. I'm very grateful for a lot of what I've experienced, but there's definitely a level of oppression. of hiding our true identity. Well, it's like hidden in plain sight, right? Because it's right
Yeah,
there.
it's hidden in
It's
plain
right there
sight.
in the Bible,
Yeah.
but it's definitely kind of convoluted and hidden as well. And that happens in all realms, right?
Yeah, it
That
does.
we're delve into with history, with
Hmm.
education, with health. All these things are hidden in plain sight.
But see, I'm such a history nerd. I know like the actual history of these religions
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
how they came about. And so that's why it's to me, it's always been like, as I don't need somebody else to tell me what's right and what's wrong. And if you need somebody else to tell you what's right and what's wrong and how to live your life, to me, you need to self check yourself. So that's the way I always thought about religion, but then just knowing the history of religion, and pretty much they just took all the pagan wasn't even really a word
Hmm.
at the time, it was manufactured, but we'll use pagan just for a reference. But they just, you know, swooped in and expected everybody to convert to Christianity, which the Muslims and the Jews, it was all one at one point because the religions are too similar. But they swooped in and like, we're going to take all your holidays and let you still practice on those holidays. But we're going to throw some Jesus in there and make it our own, but make it comfortable for you so that you participate in this thing. And then they go around the world and force it on everybody, kill thousands and thousands and thousands of people over this, and then pretend like it's the word of God or Jesus or whatever. And it's like you're not even following what you say, the whatever. You're not even following what you say your religion is about. Like you're killing people and slaughtering them and horrible things over this religion.
Well, and that's been done, I mean, in so many spheres as well. Like
Yeah.
religion is, Christianity isn't the only
No, it's not the only one.
religion.
Yeah.
Um and again, that there's such a political move in that. That was all politics.
Hmm.
Well, not all politics, but that was a lot of politics and
Yeah.
power grabs.
Yeah.
Not unlike all these things we see going on in the world right now.
Yeah.
So, when you get back to like the real message of, who Jesus was and what he came here to
And the
do,
fear in
and
it.
then the cover-ups, right? It was
Yeah.
like all those initially, so much of that murder and the power was to cover up the, the truth of his real message,
Yeah.
which was, oh,
Love
you
everybody.
are made in the image of God,
Yeah.
and you can have, like, you're not separate from God. You can have direct, you're directly connected still. You never not were, and there's nothing that you have done or can do or will do that can separate you from that love, from that connection. And you don't need an intermediary, and you don't
Yeah.
need to do penance. You don't need to give all your money away. You don't need to, you know,
Yeah.
beat yourself up. You're not going to hell, right? Like, and
Yeah.
that message is
Yeah.
powerful. Like people do kill over that.
It
And
is. And
it's
it's all
it's
fear
amazing
based.
how much love is sometimes offensive to us,
Yeah.
you
It's
know?
even like my
Like
my
radical love and forgiveness, especially when it's
yeah.
like not only us receiving it, like it's hard, but to this whole idea of like forgiving like these dirty, rotten, no good, forgiving the narcissist, forgiving the abuser, forgiving, so many people who we think have really trespassed and
Yeah.
harmed us. But then ultimately, being able to look inside ourselves and realize that we do the same things
Yeah.
and
And people
truly
need to
forgive ourselves.
they need to realize what
It's
forgiveness
offensive.
actually is.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is taking that burden off of yourself and putting it back to the person that caused the harm. It's not yours to carry. That's what
Yeah.
forgiveness is.
It's
You're
just
just
saying,
getting it
okay.
off your plate.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that you forget. You don't want to forget because you learned a lesson from that, but you're just giving it back to them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, crazies. lots of crazies. So,
So good. So good.
yeah, I was gonna bring up a little bit because astral projection and portals and
Ooh, we're
telepathy.
going there now already.
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
once you start ascending and you go like we're in the 3D, we're in on Earth, and you go up to the fourth, the fifth, the sixth dimensions. All of these things is part of quantum physics. It's part of quantum healing. So you're gonna come in contact with portals. It's a part of it. You could actually walk through portals if you wanted to. You can learn how to use them. You can I send myself out of my body and go astral projecting all over the place or even up through space to have contact with whatever's out there at the time or set my intention for whomever I want to contact. But these are things like everybody has the ability to do this, but these kind of gifts have been shut off through time
Hmm.
and you've been programmed not to to understand them or know that you can do that. And that's part of this fear-based system.
Yeah, you're a witch, you're a demon,
Yeah, yeah.
you're crazy, you're, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And they're there to help you. Like, so why not use it? Yeah. And then you were talking earlier a little bit about uh, disorders that people can have. I even want to throw like addiction into that because a lot of mental disorders and addiction, it's people's pain.
Hmm.
So if you cannot find a way to access that pain and face that pain and, forgive whatever happened to cause that pain and then find yourself and be in a happy place, then you're going to be caught in these disorders and this just like circle, circle, circle that never breaks. But I don't want to tell people like don't listen to your doctor and whatever. Like I'm not even going to go there. I
Oh,
am not
well,
a
I'm not
doctor.
afraid to go there. I'm not a doctor, but don't.
Yeah.
You got to listen to your own wisdom. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have so much innate wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
I'm
don't
glad you
cause
brought
harm.
that. I'm glad you brought that up because that whole notion of, addiction and trauma, there's so much research out there now and so much good work around, the idea that um, that we store. Some people call it trauma. There's a woman I follow, Irene Lyon, Lyon. She does somatic and nervous system work, and she calls it stored survival stress. Right. So we think of trauma maybe as, oh, I was abused, I was raped, I was beaten, but it can be like these micro. It can just be the stress of life. And
Yeah.
you and I have talked a lot about being empaths, and I think that's something that, when you are a sensitive person and sensitive to energies, sensitive to, again, like these realms that we don't necessarily see with our physical being all the time, although you do, right? Like, and I sense them. And we know they're there, right? In the realm of quantum physics, we know that these realms, these dimensions, these aspects are there, whether we can see them and touch them with our physical being or not. And everyone has varying degrees of being able to tap into that. As
Yeah.
an empath, just the overwhelm, the overstimulation of our fast-paced noise everywhere, lights everywhere, go 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 society can be very traumatic. I know for me, like I have to constantly be in the woods, be in nature. I rarely listen to music, watch TV because all of that stimulation is too much for my system. And I need quiet and the solitude. And so, yeah, when you're talking about all these things get stored, they get stored in our tissues and they get stored in our bodies. And then they start manifesting as not
Health
just
problems.
mental health problems, but physical health
Yeah,
problems. They
physical
start,
health problems too.
cancer and tumors and arthritis. And I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
I would say probably almost every single physical ailment can have a an emotional, energetic
Yeah.
root, you know.
And then adding on to that, just through my work with Akashic records and knowing the different beings and the races of beings, there are, because the bigger story that you have out there in the universe, the more you have trouble living in this 3D life, in this body. And there are certain health symptoms that certain races of beings, it's passed down onto you. So, inflammatory responses and autoimmune disorders. And you'll find like you go to the doctor and you know something's wrong, but
Yes,
doctors are constantly telling you they don't find anything wrong. And I'm not talking about people that are like hypochondriacs and always think that something's wrong. I'm like genuinely, you know something's wrong, but no doctor can find anything wrong with you.
right.
So, and then even just like fibromyalgia, they're just finally starting to recognize that that is real,
Yeah.
the science community. So these things are really tragic.
And this is all trauma and stress stored in your tissues.
Yes.
The good news is that once you start um, finding learning ways to release it, and your body will do it on its own when you give it space,
Hmm.
and is that all of these things are reversible.
They are.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I have inflammatory responses to stress. And because of who I am, fear will actually make my kidneys hurt. We've had a
yeah,
lot of kidney problems in my family, especially with women. And a lot of people in my family, especially on my mom's side, have lived their life in this constant state of stress.
yeah,
And so I'll find that my kidneys start hurting, even though I'm perfectly hydrated.
yeah,
So it really can just take a toll on you, mind, body, and soul,
yeah.
energy, whatever. And so you have to be able to sort that out. So it's really important that people continue to get knowledge about this stuff. And you can't just rely on the scientific community. Like, they're never, like, they can't even put out a discovery of something, a theory of something, even like wormholes, until very recently, because they would have been completely shunned for that. Albert Einstein was like shut down about that topic. He was the first one that talked about wormholes. So, and you look at the architecture of ancient civilizations, and they want to sit there and say that they weren't technologically advanced. It's like they could not build something like that unless they were technologically advanced. Like, why don't you want to give these people credit and be like, whoa, look at these guys? Like, these were our ancestors, instead of making it sound like they were just living in the dark and had no knowledge of anything. I don't
Stone
understand
Age.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Neanderthals, bunch of Neanderthals.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
And activations. This is what happens when you start to go down this path and you start to realize who you are and start ascending. You go through a like a DNA activation. Your body is like ting and it's waking up to things and like, whoa, what's going on around
mhm,
me? So it's an activation cycle. And then you'll start to feel like your foods that you want to eat changes, the things that you want to do changes, the people you want to hang out with changes. So everybody has to prepare themselves. Like, your entire life is going to change,
oh yeah,
period.
yep.
Yeah. And that's what makes you feel crazy. You're like, everything's changing. What? Yeah. It could be very scary.
Depends on, it depends on the order for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And I find when I like astral project and just go into the higher dimensions, I do not want to come back here. It is very hard for me to live on this planet. It is way too violent for me, way too angry for me. I feel all of that and I constantly have to like push it out. So I'll be up here all in like happy utopia land, like chilling with the beings and doing other things. And it's like, then I come out of meditation and it's time for me to like crash land back into this body. And it's like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to come back here. So yeah, I want to make this place, the earth, a better place to live on for sure.
Yeah.
That's my ultimate goal. Like, we don't need to be fighting with each other and causing war all over the place. There's enough for everybody. And we're all humans. So I don't know why people are fighting with each other anyway. Like,
Well, that goes back to again like these consciousnesses and beliefs that we've been just immersed in for so long, right?
yeah,
This
I got a
idea
smart
that
bird.
yeah, that
He's
there is not.
trying to talk.
Oh, hi Bezel.
Like,
He's like,
let
I'm
me in this
here.
conversation.
I'm here. Yeah, he's like, I've got some things to
Yeah,
say.
he always does.
I'm sure. Yeah, all of these, again, going back to these polarities, these dichotomies, right? Or just belief systems in general. One, that there's not enough. Two, that we're all separate. The idea of war when we're acting out on that, the scarcity mindset, the fear mindset, and certainly, let's not discredit that. Yeah, I mean, yes, um, we have these beliefs, but we've also experienced, as humanity, you know, we have experienced terrible atrocities, and then we just continue to perpetuate these things.
Yeah.
But you mentioned war. I think going back to that again in the esoteric, that belief of as above, so below, as within, so without. When we really start doing this work and really start healing these things and realizing that, oh, the source of love is within me. If I want peace in the world, such a big topic now, right? Like, what do we
Yeah.
have to do? Well, I remember a couple of years ago when everything started breaking out uh, with Ukraine and Russia. I was talking to a friend of mine on the phone, and we had just like brought up that whole situation, and I just got so angry and so upset. I stomped my foot, and I was like, "Damn it! What do we have to do to have peace in the world?" I'm
Yeah.
so tired of hearing about
Yeah.
all these wars, all this fighting, and it was like this lightning bolt just like hit me. I was like, I gotta go. I got off the phone and I called up my ex-husband who was
That's
like
random.
getting, well, no, who was getting, what do we have to do to have peace in the world, have peace within ourselves? So I
Yeah, okay.
called up my ex-husband who was getting married that week. And I was like, look, like anything and everything that I could still possibly be holding against you, I let it go. I forgive you. I want peace in the world. And that starts within ourselves.
Yeah.
So all of these things, what do we have to do to finally not have racism in the world, bigotry in the world, sexism in the world, sex trafficking in the world? Even, you look at the environment and the climate, like that starts within us and how we
Yeah.
treat our environment and our climate of us and the world around us.
Yeah.
If we're living in connection and reverence to the earth, it's going to be harder and harder and harder to continue to be raping and pillaging the earth, because you realize that one, this is this is my life source. This is, whether it's, Mother Earth, the Great Mother, an extension of God, or just the planet that you live on.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter your paradigm there. When we're in connection with it, it's harder and harder to take it for granted, to extract resources, to live so carelessly, and to realize then also, we're talking about, in this ascension process, realizing, wait a second, what I do to myself affects everyone around me, affects the earth. What I do to the earth affects me. That it's all connected. and it's all an extension of me. So why wouldn't I want to be, loving everyone and everything?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
all of my clients, it's it seems to be really hard for them to understand that raising the vibrations of the earth literally starts with just you.
Just you. That's it.
So whatever your gifts are, you need to step into those because that's part of your tools of
Yeah.
raising the vibrations of the earth.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid that, whatever your voice is and whatever your gifts are, that they're not enough. Like that's you. That's what you're supposed to be doing.
Hmm.
And I was I think I've told you about my one client. I don't really tell a lot about my clients. I kind of treat it like HIPAA because
Hmm.
a lot of things that come up in my readings can be really personal. But I do have one client that's a medium, and I'm a medium too, but I've never seen somebody have this many spirits waiting to talk to one person.
Mm.
I opened it up for him, and that's when I discovered all these people. And it was like a never ending sea. I mean, literally, I could not see the end of these souls that were waiting to talk to him. And so I'm constantly like, what are you going to do about this? Are you going to get on this yet? Are you going to like, because I'm like, that can raise the vibration of the earth, like, boom, like tremendous amount if you just help this endless sea of souls that I saw. And I had to shut that down because I'm such an empath. That was just like way too much for my little empathness. But yeah, so that was
Too much,
crazy.
too
But
much.
if you're a medium, you have a responsibility to help those spirits that you come in contact with and help them go to a happy place, whatever that is. That raises the vibrations of the earth. I can't stand like paranormal groups that just go in and set up their equipment and just try to get evidence. It's like you're making it worse. Like they reenact all these like Civil War battles on the actual battlefield. It's like you're not even letting these people rest. You're making it worse. You're making these people relive this and relive this and relive this.
Mm.
So if you're a medium, you have a responsibility to help souls out and help them move on from this place to whatever they're supposed to be doing.
That is really curious. I've never, thought about that in terms of I remember in college I had some friends who did Civil War reenactment, and thinking about that in terms of like there's something within us psychically that's still trying to work that out, right? Like the actual physical people who are out there, like there's
Yeah,
something in them cyclically that's still trying to work that out, or even just this whole, civil war, right? Like, and you look at like in the United States today, there's a lot of people like, oh, get ready for civil war because our country seems like it seems like, and I'm going to say seems like it is so divided. It is
it
a
is. But
civil war of types. And again, that goes back to the internal of like, where are you at war within yourself? And it's like you're at war against your soul,
yeah,
allowing your soul to come through. And the more that we can let our egos and our preconditioned notions of who we are, who society says we are, who our parents said we were, who we think we should be, and set those aside to really allow our soul to come through. It wants to
yeah,
connect, it wants to live in love, it wants to live in union, it wants the highest good for us, for our loved ones, for our families, for the world around us.
hmm,
And we continue to be at war.
yeah,
And again too, like going back to, you mentioned, raising the vibration, right? Like what if change the world, raise the vibration.
hmm,
But again, the more work that we do in our inner state, it it ripples, it continues to ripple out and ripple out and ripple out. And And I think that so much of what we see going on in the world today, it's not that the world is getting worse, it's not that the world is getting darker. All this stuff has always been there.
It's always
If
been there.
anything,
Yeah.
it's in if anything, like in some ways, it has been worse in many times in history because
Yeah.
there was a time when slavery was accepted. There was a time when raping your wife and beating your wife was accepted. There was a
Yeah.
time when, you know, like it's fine to be racist. It's fine to be sexist. It's fine to beat your child.
Yeah.
Things are actually getting better because we're becoming aware and realizing, like, oh my gosh, when we do that, we're doing this to ourselves. We're doing this to another human being. How in the world could we do this to another human being?
Yeah.
Why? And so we're seeing it. It's coming to the surface so it can like really get in our face and we can make a choice. Do I want to keep living like this? Do I want to
Yeah.
keep perpetuating war and violence and pain? Or do I want to
Yeah.
choose the way of love?
And people
So,
need to, I wish they had learned from their history a little faster, honestly.
right?
But
Well, there is that,
yeah,
but
um,
yeah,
people need to realize that, especially in America, war is a way for a very few people to make a hell ton of money.
yeah.
Period. They learned to create war when they orchestrated Pearl Harbor. And these are history facts, folks. So whoever's going to write in little nasties about what I say, we cut off Japan's oil supply on purpose to get them to attack us. They didn't know specifically exactly where that would be. I mean, Japan was like, go big or go home. Let's go to Pearl Harbor. But they instigated that so that we could enter the war because none of America wanted to enter that war. They were like, it's over there. It's got nothing to do with us. Mm-mm. And that's the way that they got us to enter that war. And they learned very quickly from that how to create war. And they've been
Mhm.
doing it ever since. So they just take our citizens and put them out to slaughter and slaughter all kinds of people from wherever we are bombing everybody. And it's completely unnecessary and just fuels the pocketbooks of a very few. And that's not right. It's not cool. And it's obviously not helping anything. But people need to understand that about war because there's never,
I think
yeah, go
I
ahead.
think the majority of people, again, when I brought up earlier that it seems like our country is so divided, when you really sit down and talk to another individual as just human beings to human being, you and I have a lot of differences, right?
Yeah,
You
everybody's
and
different.
I disagree on a lot of things, but when we can sit down and really share honestly who we are,
Mhm.
it's hard not to love another human being. And
Yeah.
we we want the same things in life.
Hmm.
And I think, as a country, ultimately, this is exactly where we are at the end of the day.
Yeah.
We want the same things. We hurt the same way. We have the same wounds and pains and
Yeah.
fears. I love it's Rumi, right? Rumi says, if you go, I'm going to paraphrase this because I'm not remembering it correctly, but you go far enough to the right and far enough to the middle. Eventually, I guess it's not Rumi, it was someone else. But you meet, I call it, you meet around back. He
Yeah.
says, like, there's a field, I'll meet you there, right?
Yeah.
Out beyond, that's what is it? Out beyond, somebody help me out here, out beyond our notions of right doing and wrong doing, there's a field, I'll meet you here. And you just keep
Yeah.
going to the left and keep going to the right. And like, let's just meet around back, have a beer or a kombucha or, whatever it is, nice glass of spring water and just really share our hearts. And that's where we are. And again, like these polarities are coming up, these inner wars, these outer wars are coming up for us to truly take a look at them, feel feel what it is that's underneath that so that we can
Yeah.
alchemize it and heal it and come back into wholeness.
Crazy Horse said, um, and one, I'm doing what you are
Yeah,
doing. I'm just
I know.
paraphrasing, but
I didn't put it in my notes.
yeah, Crazy Horse has said kind of the same thing. Like, the red man will rise again, but it's going to be included with all humans of the earth because we're all living
Yeah.
under the tree of life.
Right.
So I kind of paraphrased what he said, but that's kind of what he said. And the tree of life is in there. So that kind of knowledge is known to especially tribal people. Like it's deeply ingrained in them. And so we've got to get everybody else to get on board with this. And part of Ascension as well is kind of what you were talking about. You have to educate yourself. You cannot stay in your little hick town, in your little hick church. I can say hicks because I'm half from West Virginia, so
Yeah, I was
whatever.
gonna say, hey, you're talking about me and my people. Let's
Yeah,
come
no,
on.
it's my people. It's my family. But you have to,
You
even if
watch
you can't.
Napoleon Dynamite like I live like 10 miles. That was my high school experience, you know?
Oh my gosh. Like even if you can't afford like some kind of higher education, you've got to educate yourself. You've got to get out and actually talk to people. Like, I
Yeah.
talk to people from all over the world because I'm also a teacher and I teach people from all over the world. You've got to learn their culture. You got to learn like why they are the way they are and the way that they do things. And
Yeah.
as long as somebody's not causing harm, why wouldn't you want to learn about them? Why wouldn't you want that extra knowledge in your life so that you can love more people and not be afraid of everybody that's different than you? Like, we're all meant to be different.
Well, and
That's,
I think it's particularly fascinating. My degree is in behavioral science, and I thought I was going to go into, like psychology and counseling, and particularly the people that are causing harm. I really want to know, show me your heart. Why do you do the
yeah,
things you do? Because underneath that is always a wounded child.
yes.
Always, always,
There's
always.
always a wound.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was wounded as a child. Like, I have chosen in life, like, I don't want to make anybody else feel like that. I knew that from a very young child that I never wanted to make anybody else feel the way that I was treated.
Yeah.
So I went the complete opposite of that. Like, I didn't harden my heart and I didn't become an asshole to everybody.
See, I like the radical middle. I mean, I agree with you. I definitely, but I show up as an asshole so much, not
Well, I
on
could be an
purpose,
asshole.
not on
Yeah.
purpose. Like that's it's just like I try, I'm
Yeah.
trying, but
I'm a
do it
fiery bitch.
anyway.
Like, especially if you're trying to do harm to me, then it's like,
Yeah,
oh, watch out because now you're in trouble. But
yeah.
like, I will full on stand up for myself. I don't put up with people's bad behavior for
Well, it's
a second.
liberating too. I recently heard someone had the quote. They said, the most well-resourced person in the room is the one without shame.
Mm,
And I like to do this practice. Is it Ram Dass? I think it was Ram Dass that, he says, you look at like the bum on the street, just like the just degenerate addict or whoever it is, Donald Trump, or, you look at that person and you say, I am that. Yeah, just sit with me here for a
I'm,
minute, take a
I'm
deep
like
breath. Because
doing
I
the deep.
know, like, whoever's
Uh,
listening to this is just like, I am that.
yeah,
I
I'm
am
like,
that.
yeah,
I am that. And just, realizing like that connectedness, that 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 mirror, and that these things reside in all of us. All of
this
us.
is my weapon for animals, you guys.
No one is exempt. And I think maybe this isn't what, one of the things that we don't really talk about in the ascension process or in the enlightenment process is
Yeah,
that you think, oh, I'm going to get better and better and more loving and loving. And my life is just going to be like all daisies and roses and everything's just going to be wonderful. What we
no,
don't
it's
talk
not like
about is
that.
endarkenment. Endarkenment,
Yeah.
what you do is like, you're going to go to hell.
Mhm,
You are going to go to hell. You're going to go to your own personal hell.
mhm.
You're going to sit with those demons. You're going to have to go down into that shadow and turn
Yeah,
over every stone and
yeah,
every place in yourself that you have denied and
Mhm.
victimized and vilified and rejected and abandoned and betrayed. And you learn to start sitting with all of those different parts
Mhm.
and loving them
Yeah.
and you know, addiction, right? Addiction's in there. Nicole Dodone says that addiction is the lightning path
Mhm.
to enlightenment because it lays you low so fast that all you can do is look up,
Yeah.
and you can't sit on that high horse with an ego, with, you know, pompous, I'm better than everyone else. It humbles you to say, no, I am no better
Yeah, I am
than
no better than
anyone
anybody
else.
else. Yeah, we are
And
all collective. We're all,
yeah,
yeah.
and I am still inherently divine,
Yeah.
right? Like, yeah.
I tell my
So,
clients when I read their Akashic records, I know I've done yours and I don't think I actually said this to you, but you have you go through a descension process
mhm,
in order to be able to live in this place right now. I've had a few different human lives on earth and they've all been just shitty. So like so I went from
I
this
sign up for.
really yeah, I was at this really high utopian place in the universe and I ping-ponged around and lived different lives in the universe and made this descension process in order to be able to live on this earth.
Mhm,
And then you have to take that and now we're in an ascension process, which is a beautiful thing because like you said, in the past, this was not even an option. Like,
right.
you did not talk like this. You didn't even have thoughts like this. If you even said that you believed in ghosts, like your family was like, lock her up somewhere and don't you ever talk like that again. Like, it was just embarrassing. And like, you just didn't go there. And so now at least we're on this in this place where a lot of people are on this path and going down this ascension road and we're trying to be better and trying to understand the beautiful things that are out there for us. So, yeah, you have to
Yeah. Well,
descend
it's
first.
that you do. It's the endarkment, the, you know, yeah,
Hmm.
because it's, you know, bringing all of these things back into wholeness, and you realize like I am that, and it is all God,
Yeah.
right? That's like one of the hardest things to look at, and to look at what is going on in the world, or even like bringing it closer to home, right? Like, I guess it's kind of easy to dissociate and say, oh, all the things in the world, but like let's really bring it home
Hmm.
and realize like, oh, you mean all the things that I've gone through in my life, all the things I've experienced, it's all God. It's
Yeah.
all, there's nothing outside of that, um, you know, that divinity or that love,
Hmm.
right? There's nothing outside of that love. And you're like, wait, what are you talking about? The abuse, the addiction, the, you know, sexual assault, what? But it
Yeah.
is. And that's part of this process. And you know, you mentioned, you know, how difficult it is. Like, oh, you came from this place of like just total like utopia is so good. And to come in here and it's so heavy and so dense. But that's what we're here to do, right? Is to bring that down into the physical, into matter. I mean, the,
Yeah.
you know, the word human, I've heard it, I haven't verified this, but I think it comes from like this, you know, ancient, is it ancient Sanskrit of Hu, which is another word for God,
Hmm.
and the man
Yeah.
manifest, like God made manifest, like incarnate. Like that is what we are here
Yeah.
doing, is showing up in this world. And really it's remembering it always has been, always was this way, but we forgot, and
We
therefore
forgot. Yeah.
in the forgetting, now we're creating things that are based on that forgetting, that are based on that separation, the war, the scarcity, the, you know, starvation, the, you know, all the atrocities. And as we continue to remember, we remember that, oh, it is all God, so it does matter how I live and treat it, and it is all God, and there is enough as we continue to remember, and it's going to continue to materialize more and more and more and more.
Yeah.
So maybe
And
someday we won't want to just check out of here. We'll be like, yeah, Earth
that
life,
would
it's
be
the best,
nice because
10 out of
I
again.
I love Earth as in the planet. I think Earth is just dope. But like all the shenanigans that
The
happen
human
on Earth is
experience.
like
Yeah.
exhausting. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I don't necessarily subscribe to a god. And I've talked a lot about some of the universal beings, and they have a device. And so if you even think look at the way that the earth is tilted, so it's very like this right now.
Hmm.
And it should be polarized. So it's they refer to it as King Arthur, whatever that dude was that pulled the sword out of the rock. My brain's
That's
gone la
King
la la
Arthur.
la. There we go.
Yeah, King
But
Arthur.
his sword is like the sword that is the polarity of Earth, and their device has made everything tilt this way. And just through the work that I've done in the Akashic records, there they were here for a reason, and that device was here for a reason. And people need to learn from hardships, but they took it way too far.
Hmm.
And so they've kind of hijacked all of us humans, and that's why everything is so turbulent. And so we're trying to like shift it back. So no matter where you believe that these things come from, it like we agree in the center, like it needs to be like shifted back.
Something needs to change, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, there
yeah,
needs to be a shift in everything.
yeah.
So yeah, it's it's crazy. And they're from my knowledge, they're just kind of responsible for any tiny little bad thought that you have to like the worst atrocities that can possibly happen. So we don't. Will you guys behave? I got naughty babies today. Mm-hmm.
But I had
Um,
to kick mine out of the room, otherwise they'd be all over me.
the, mine won't go for that. They'd just be crying like, "Where's
Yeah,
mom? I'm gonna
here's
sit on your
one.
lap." Yeah, but yeah, we're just trying to shift everybody to a better place and to get to know yourself and to love yourself. Because when you love yourself, then you can spread that love to everybody
You
else.
love yourself, game over. Like
Yeah,
what is there left to do?
yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's the sad part of humanity and that fear that everybody constantly lives in. And any kind of hatred is just based in fear. It's your own fear of whatever you're hating on, whether
yeah.
it's people being gay or what, like people
Donald
not being
Trump.
your religion or a different race, or you're just afraid. You're afraid.
Yeah.
And if you really sit down and think about it, what is that person even doing to you? Like they're just living their freaking life and they don't even care about you. So it's like I don't understand why everybody gets all like mad and hateful over all these goofy things all the time. It's like it's just such a waste of your energy to feel
Well,
that
again,
way.
it goes back to like these the beliefs that we hold, like, oh, this person has power over me.
Mm,
And I remember years ago, I was talking to a friend and just like something just hit me. I was like, wait a second, like our power is our power. That's innate. That no one can take that away from us, really. Now we can give it away. We can let people, and yeah, granted, I get like if somebody is like twice your size or has got big guns, there is this element of dominance, but ultimately your power is your power and no one can take that away. You consent to giving it to people. I mean, our whole government is set up that, right? Like
yeah,
the what does it say? Our elected officials derive their power from the consent of the governed. The only power they have is what we consensually give to them.
yeah,
Now, again, like they have more guns than we do, so it's a little tricky taking that power back.
yeah.
But it's possible. The only power they have is what we've given them. So if our government is like overstepping and out of bounds and
Oh
going
yeah,
off the rails, it is because we have continued to hand over
Yeah.
our power. Now, the
Yeah.
flip side of that is take it back. It takes, more and more
Takes
and more
time.
time and self responsibility. That means
Yeah.
like, oh, I have to look out for this now. I get, not have to, I get to be responsible for this now.
Yeah. It,
And
I keep saying, especially these younger generations, because I'm a Gen Xer, and so are you, but
yeah, yeah.
they don't want anything to do with this war system and the way that our government works. They just want to be free to live their life.
Oh, there's
However,
so many beautiful souls, and they
yeah,
see through so much of the BS, and
yeah.
their
But I'm
hearts
like, if
are
you don't
like,
get
we just want
involved,
to. Why can't we just all get along and love each other? I love
yeah,
working with younger people because their
yeah,
hearts are, they're so empathic, they're so
mhm,
sensitive, and so compassionate.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
they
I'm
give me great hope.
constantly on my social media. I'm like, if you guys don't get involved, you will not have your rights. You need to start putting up a fight, like a in a good way, not in a violent way, but
Yeah,
in a good way to say this is not okay. We're not going to stand for this crap anymore.
yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, like everybody in this country has the full right to launch a lawsuit against our federal government. Because just since I study history, I know that we could have had full free renewable energy this entire time. And we've been breathing crappy air and having all these fossil fuels mined, which fossil fuels they come from fossils from dead things. They were never meant to be mined and extracted. That's why the earth pulls them down into
Oh, it's
herself.
compost. It's
Yes.
compost. Right.
And it pisses me off. Like I want to
Yeah,
have clean air. I don't want to live in garbage filled whatevers and smell nasty crap all around me, and like I want that clean system. We should all have that clean system, but we're paying into the system once again to make a few people very, very rich.
yeah,
And
yeah. All right, woman. We could like be
I
on
know
here
we
for.
could go on forever.
I think we've brought up like 54 subplots here.
I know. We totally have. But it's all kind
Yeah,
of meshed in the same thing because you need to break down all these systems in order
yeah,
for to have that ascension. So
yeah,
everybody's got a role to play in all of this to make things better is like the
yeah,
overall point. Yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead if you
So,
got
is there
something to
anything
say more.
else? Well, I was just gonna say maybe we should wrap it up for today. But is there anything else that is just like really on your mind and your heart that you want to share today um and leave our listeners with?
I just want everybody to understand that you literally, as long as you're not a harmful person, but you literally just be you and do not let anybody else tell you who you are. You stick with that. You believe in yourself. That's all I've got to say.
That's all I have to say. That's all
That's
she wrote.
all she wrote,
That's all she
folks.
wrote. Excellent.
End of our first episode of the Mystery School of Life. This
Yeah,
was
I do.
awesome.
I have some closing thoughts too. I just want
Okay.
to, I know that right now there are a lot of people who are feeling just really frazzled and scared and overwhelmed. And I just want you all to know that you are not alone and that we get through this. Like I have, and don't just take my word for it, like I have such great, I really, humans can be terrible, but I have such great hope in humanity. Like, I know we get through this. And if you're out there, if you're struggling, if you're feeling scared right now, if you're feeling overwhelmed and alone, just know that you're not crazy. And um, just, just breathe, go outside, put your ear to the ground, turn off your screen after you listen to us.
After you listen to us,
After you listen
after
to
you
us,
watch us on the internet.
turn off your screen,
Yeah.
go outside, and put your ear to the ground and listen. I just sat in a 6 week container of a mystery school initiation around calling in the soul of the United States.
Mm.
And it was so beautiful when we really got quiet and we went out on the different lands. We had people all over the United States and even, I think, some in Canada and New Zealand, all over the world,
Yeah,
in on this, listening to what is the soul of the United States saying right now? What is the message of the land for us? And it was absolutely stunning and beautiful and full of hope. She needs us all working together. She wants us all. We are all here right now for a reason. She has
yeah,
called us all here to this land, and she's you, me, everyone listening. Just keep listening to what's in the earth and the ethers. Turn off the news, and
don't watch the news.
we get through this. We get through
Yeah,
this, and it better days are coming. Not just because of you know flimsy, wishy-washy hope, but because it's solid. Because there's so many of us right now realizing we are here to make a difference, and we're going to. So
yeah.
yeah,
Everybody just stick with it and don't listen to anybody else tell you what's right, what's wrong, what's happening, what's true, what's false, even us. Like, I literally want people to take all of this information we just spewed out all over everybody
oh yeah, right.
and think about it and pull it into yourself. What do you think about it? What do you want to do with this? It's always about you need to think about it and educate yourself and research things and get how you feel about something and just follow your heart and follow your gut.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Good podcast, my friend.
All right,
Bam.
high five. Woo.
Hey, everybody, don't forget to hit click and like and subscribe. Send us your comments. We will answer them. There'll be a contact link for us in the description. We will answer any emails, any messages that we get. You can set up readings with us, healing sessions with us. You can do group sessions, all kinds of fun stuff. So, bye everybody for today. I'm Raven. That's Jennifer. And thank you for listening.
Yeah, right. Mwah.